again, the importance of having an access line or another throw line set in the tree is, I mean, just think about days when you get to work and it's like, man, I cannot hit that crotch, and your boss is going, get off the ground already.
Right.
You know, when somebody that you work with is up there and they're hurt and they need your help, that's going to be a high stress situation. We're not trained for those types of high stress situations. You know, you get that type of training in the military. And, you know, getting a line in the tree in a high stress situation is something that might take a really long time. So having that access line set, or at least throw line set in larger trees is really, really important. Hey, Joe!
Aerial Rescue
Joe's not
101.
responding. I'm going to go up there and see if I can help him out. Joe! He's breathing.
All right, now the ambulance is on its way.
What's that?
Ambulance is on its way.
All right. All right, so I'll take a break now. Something else I want to point out is I'm winded now. I don't climb every day. That was a 30-foot ascent. The way we have the event set up here for emergency response, over here in the skills tree, we have an access line up in the ground. Our emergency preparedness plan is we have a bucket truck. If one of the candidates is injured in the tree, instead of huffing up the tree, I'll get placed with that bucket truck.
I hate to give him
Get
this
tied in,
advertisement.
and when I get up there, I'm ready to go.
And now tape that line. Tape the line.
Yes.
Good call.
God.
trying to get them to the ground, you want to make sure that you have them secure in case you lose control of their knot. Another great thing that might be good for an emergency preparedness kit for a high angle rescue is 2 hanks of line with a rope snap at either end. So you have one here. This goes to the victim's D-ring. You have one here to the victim's D-ring. You can snap in directly. I'll be going around the back of his waist today.
Nevik Dunley, Aerial Rescue 101 training, the proper way to bring an injured tree guy down. Produced by Booker Everdando.
Alright, so one thing like we talked about, a couple things first of all. Remember we were talking about suspension trauma and trying to keep the person in the same position? Yeah. It gets really hard when you get towards the ground, and so at that point, it's a lot of times it's a good idea to ask the guys on the ground and give the guys on the ground some direction. Hey, help me get him down, let's try and keep him horizontal, or if he's vertical, let's figure out a way we can keep him vertical. That may be setting a gear bag up so that you can set him down with his head above his legs if he's been vertical. Okay. The other thing we were talking about was start on the card. We talked about having a way to be able to tend his knot and make it a little bit easier. So just a simple setup like this can do that. Alright, so if Nevik put that pulley above his knot, puts that on. Okay, and then you can clip this onto anywhere on your saddle. What's important is that it's taut. You don't want any slack in it, because if there's slack in it, you're going to get below him. And then at that point, Nevik can just work his knot.
What I want to bring up is you brought up suspension trauma. A pretty good indication this guy might have suspension trauma is how set that knot is.
Really?
He's been hanging there now for 2 hours. That knot is really, really set with dead weight. You know, when we're working, we're constantly adjusting that knot, and that knot is set up to be controlled. But you know, that's a real good indication it's been there a while. And if someone has been up there for a while and EMS is not there, once you get them to this point, you may just want to let them hang.
Okay.
And not relieve that pressure on all those arteries. Because again, we're not trained to deal with that. Is that right?
Yeah, you want to make sure that you keep them in that same position. You know, so if they're vertical, you want to keep their head up above their feet.
You want them when they're down on the ground looking as much as possible like they were in the tree.
Exactly. Because you don't want all that blood flowing back to where it hasn't been in a big rush, because it can cause shock.
Another thing we can go over is you actually may need to lift somebody out of the crotch at some point. I mean, when you're on lines and on your tippy toes, it's not easy to get that knot lifted. Bring it down just a little bit more. The English prusik isn't a very good climbing knot because it binds so well. It makes great for a friction break if you're doing secured footlock. But also works really good in this type of application.
It's like a 3-to-1 to lift his knot.
Yep.
Really, you even do this with carabiners. Pulleys just get you into a zero friction situation. But this would work just going over the edge of the carabiner as well. See how easily I can lift him if I need to do something to adjust this knot. This would be another good way. You know, something we don't go over, that we haven't gone over with the chapter so much, is how do you get somebody off of out of a footlock position if they've passed out. That last tree they wanted to climb at the end of the day.
And they're just hanging.
And they're, you know, it's this exact same thing.
The other time, this is something that's becoming more common, is in like an SRT system, so like a single rope ascent. Okay, a lot of times if someone's in a single rope system, unless they've set it up prior for rescue, it's hard to get them out of that system because there's a lot of ascenders and things like that, and you got to take the pressure off those ascenders to be able to open them up. Right, so using a system like this, you can do that. And if you need more space, you can always just slide this up. Okay, so if you get, should be able to just pull that. Yeah, it's just so set. But at this point, you know, once you get the tension off of his knot, you can loosen it up a little bit. You can work it a little bit, get a little bit of slack in it so it's not so ridiculously tight. And then
See how it's sliding? and then he'll set on again, and you can keep advancing that for as far as you need to. You see now?
Pulling them up 10 minutes.
You're slowly lifting. You know, and this is really what, you know, this pulley works great really here because it keeps, if you try to just run a line through here, you have all these other lines causing friction. So, you know, just with a spare climbing system on your belt, which you should have anyway if you want to do redirects or if you damage your primary system, but having something like that on your belt can go a long way. You stick to, if you only have the one pulley, you put that put the pulley down here at the bottom to move that rope out of, so it doesn't have the friction, and then instead of going through, you can do this exact same thing with just a diener.
It's just a lot easier with a couple of little pulleys.
Well, it's less stress on your rope too. You know, that's a lot of stress in there. A brand new line or doing this a few times will, the rope will take it. But if you're constantly putting that kind of bend ratio on your lines, it's gonna stress them out over time.
You know, we talked a little bit. We kind of touched on rescue off of a spar. Okay. And when you've got a guy that's is unconscious and on a spar, it's pretty hard to get him out of his spikes. Okay, so a lot of times you have to relieve the tension, and this is one way you can do it. You have to set another rope. But that's one of the real big challenges in a spar rescue, is that when a guy goes, you know, dead limp like this, it's really hard to get him to a position where you can lower him.
Go ahead and get both of you guys to go ahead and try to set this up.